What's up? It's Brian Soscia, another wrestling exclusive at TheBriansoscia on Twitter if you want to talk wrestling or whatever. But today, very privileged to have former WWE announcer, former WWE superstar, and all-around good guy, Matt Stryker, who's going to be doing the big Right Coast Pro Wrestling Seminar in Delaware. That's this Saturday, January 18th, 2014. $50 get you headshots, lunch, and the seminar with Stryker. You want to check out more info, rightcoastpro.com. But Stryker, my man, haven't talked to you in a while. So excited to have you on. And how you doing, dude?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me. It's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's really good to talk to you, too. I was just saying off the air that I was so happy. I mean, we'll get into everything and how you got to WWE and all, but I was so happy when I saw they signed you because I've always pegged you as a guy who just loves wrestling. I mean, as a fan, as everything else. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, yeah, and I think that's why I identify so much, like especially with where you're located. I mean, just that whole Philly and New York and Delaware and New Jersey, just that East Coast way about doing things. Of course, we're going to, wear our hearts on our sleeve. We're going to go out there, and if we don't make it, with our attitude, we'll die trying. So that's what happened. I made it, supposedly. I'm still yet to die trying.
Yeah, well, I think I'd say you made it. And like I said, I was very happy to see that when they signed you. But see, the way they signed you, and I'd like to talk about that. Some fans know, some may not. I got to witness it firsthand. It was a very interesting story with a lot of curves, a lot of turns. Now, I hope you don't mind me saying, but you were, just like your gimmick was, a teacher. So it's not far from the real thing. And can you kind of explain what happened? I know, that you were doing some stuff for the WWE. You were wrestling all over the place in the independents, learning from the veterans and making a name for yourself. I think I might have been there when you got beat up by Kurt Angle. Is that when you got caught doing your passion on the side from teaching?
Yeah, I was teaching high school social studies in Queens, New York, and I was wrestling on the weekends and stuff, and an opportunity came up to go to Japan, and you don't say no, that's an honor. So I had to take a couple of days off, and it was right around Christmas time, and I called in sick, which is what people do. I mean, it's pretty much colloquialism now. Well, I didn't go to school today. I called in sick. I should have called in personal. Call on a personal day versus a sick day. So the Department of Education pursued it because they had nothing better to do, and they made this whole big story for a week. It was on the cover of every newspaper. So, of course, it made its way to WWE's desk. Tommy Dreamer and Court Bauer were familiar with me from previous work. And they figured, let's do a one-off and bring this teacher kid in, let him wrestle Kurt Angle, and that'll be it. But that's where destiny stepped in, and the good Lord smiled upon me, and Kurt Angle and I had, I think it was one of the greatest 3 minutes in wrestling history. And from there, I was signed and stuck around for about 8.5 years with WWE.
Yeah, man, that was a pretty long time you had with WWE. That's why I think you're totally qualified, and I'm looking forward to see what you have to say this Saturday, which is January 18th, 2014 for Right Coast Pro, rightcoastpro.com. You're going to be helping some of the younger guys out. Now, what are you going to be doing?
Yeah, one big thing for me, and again, just being how I was raised, you always got to go home. You always got to give back. Right Coast Pro and the people involved with Right Coast Pro helped to give me my start 10, 12, 13 years ago. It's not just a wrestling seminar. It's actually not a wrestling seminar at all. It's a performance seminar. Wrestling just happens to be the vehicle that RCP uses, but if you're a broadcaster, a lowly radio guy in Philadelphia that used to be an indie guy, a school teacher, an aspiring singer, anything, you can come and you can learn. It's really just a class in performance and how to work your way in and out of situations that you as a performer will be comfortable with so that you can give your best performance.
Definitely. And it's only $30 for lunch and the seminar, and then you pay $50 total. $50 if you want your headshots, lunch, and the seminar. That's a good deal. Headshots are way more expensive than that, professionally done. And I think you're the guy to teach about performance. I mean, from doing the Macho Man Striker gimmick or the Ultimate Warrior Striker gimmick on the Indies when I was watching you do that, and then you showed it also in WWE as a wrestler, as an announcer. When you got there, you went in what you thought was going to be a full-time wrestler, correct?
For the most part, yes.
All right. Now, honestly, did it let you down when you realized that you were going to wrestle here and there, but you were going to do more announcing, or were you like, good, my body's going to be good and I'm good on the mic?
I was, for the first 3 years, I was wrestling every single night, and I loved it, and I didn't mind it at all. And then when right around the fifth year, the announcing gig kind of presented itself, and never once was I let down or did I balk. All I saw it was another room that I could go into in this cool mansion called WWE. Oh, I get to play in the attic now? Okay, cool. Oh, I get to go downstairs and play in the den? Cool. So whether it was wrestling, announcing, working behind the scenes in the production, timing the shows, helping up-and-coming guys with their performances, which is what I graduated to. No, I was never let down. I was always actually pretty inspired by it. You know, I'm a big geek, so I kind of like to learn as much as I can.
What I thought, I really enjoyed your work as an announcer and stuff like that, and I thought it was cool.
So you're the one that enjoyed it. Oh,
I did. I thought that you made a nice transition from the ring to the announce booth. There were some people that, not that they didn't enjoy your announcing, but they thought that sometimes maybe you pushed a little far, were a little far-fetched. A lot of people on the internet sometimes, actually I got a question on Twitter about this, asking about some of the dirt sheet writers might have said, like, well, Striker's out of hand. He's making stuff up now. Did you pay attention to that? Did that ever even bother you?
No, because, and I don't mean this as a slap, but not a single one of those internet dirt sheet writers did I ever see walking around the halls of WWE. So everything they ever put out was only hearsay, conjecture, and speculation. None of it was fact. So how could I possibly pay attention to that? Could I look at it and read it and go, oh, wow, this person who is an intelligent person has this opinion? Would I take that into consideration? Yes. Would I let it get me down? No. I've had more negative things said about me than positive things about me, but I mean, so did Jesus Christ, but I'm not comparing myself to him, but there you go.
Hey, man, like the great Gene Simmons said, as long as they're talking about you and spelling your name right, that's really what matters. As long as it's not spelling Striker with a Y, that's what matters.
Yes.
I don't even know whatever happened to that guy, the other striker.
Brian Warman, who was the original match striker, I think is a great wrestler, by the way, now makes wrestling gear. And I think you can find him on Twitter. Is it MATSTRYKER? I think that's his Twitter.
There you go. Hopefully you get some gimmicks sold for him. You're a good man. Look at that, giving back like he's going to do at RCP this weekend. I like it.
See that? Well, would I be a total, D if I walked around and made believe that guy didn't exist? Because eventually that'll come and bite me in the ass,
Yeah. I want to talk advice. What do you think is your best advice you've ever gotten inside the wrestling industry, whether it be WWE or anywhere else?
Don't play at this. And that can be applied to everything, Don't go into something thinking, oh, this is how I should do this, and I'm going to go and I'm going to play this and that. Just go in and do what you think is the best thing to do. Try not to alienate anybody. And in the end, if you are trying your hardest and your goal is to better everyone around you, no one can really hate on you for that. As it applies to wrestling, a lot of guys will go into a wrestling match and say, well, I have to get in my backflip, I have to get in my judo chop, and I have to get in that little dance that I do. And that guy isn't trying to work for the match, he's only working for himself. Then there are guys that go, oh, man, I really got to help this guy get his backflip in, and I have to make it look good, and I have to set up for his judo. Now you're working for the match. So if you try to work for the people around you and you try to work for the betterment of whatever your goal or product is, at the end of the day, man, at least you can sleep at night knowing you did the best you could.
Yeah, straight up. See, that's just some of the advice, a little tease of the advice you're going to get at the seminar, I don't want to call it wrestling seminar, the performance seminar this weekend at RCP, which I, again, think it's a great deal at $30 or $50 if you're doing the headshots, too. Now, your time, you said about the first 3 years in-ring, and then you transitioned over to announcing. Did you, I guess you weren't traveling as much as an announcer. Did you find the travel load a little easier? Did you miss the travel?
The travel when I was wrestling was, to give you an idea, it was Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. But, you're wrestling and you're out and you're being quasi-famous. So, you're staying in nice hotels and stuff. As far as the announcing went, it would only be Mondays and Tuesdays, which was fine with me. All the perks are still the same. And then on Wednesdays, I'd go up to the studios in Stamford, Connecticut. And that's where I really learned a different side of the business.
Yeah.
Teleprompters, camera cues, booms, production. I mean, basically it was myself and 2 other people, and we produced 4 shows that went out every week. So I really learned a ton about the television production side. But I didn't really miss the travel. I didn't mind it. It was camaraderie, and it was something that I guess was part of the job, so I liked it.
Did you ever get any kind of problems from WWE or maybe even a fan just coming up to you being like, Striker, we enjoy what you're doing, but I always noticed you would slide these cute little references in of things. Was anyone ever told you, hey, chill out with those? I mean, or was that a no-no?
The only thing that was ever brought up was if I ever mentioned, let's say, Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant.
Yeah.
Let's say we were in North Carolina. Someone would point out to me, hey, while that's cool and stuff, 88% of our crowd has no idea who that is. And B, Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant isn't selling any tickets right now. And that's what really, I was like, whoa, you know something? You're right. No one's coming, and I get it, pay the homage, but move on. No one's coming to see Boogie Woogie. They're coming to see John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as fans and stuff go, I've always had fans come up to me, and everyone thinks they're wrestling savvy. Oh, hey, you said that Randy Orton won the title in St. Louis in 1997 when in reality it was 1996. And I'm like, you know what, dude? Okay, fine, you win. You know, it was January. I'm sorry.
Right. It's like, did you ever make a mistake at your? They do that in radio too. Did you ever make a mistake at your job? Yes, you did. Just not as many people can see or hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and my thing was, if I knew I made a mistake, I'd go back on the air the next week and address my mistake, because I just think that's the respect that is owed to the fan. You know, I mean, I'm a comic book guy. I grew up reading comics, so anytime there was something weird in a comic and it wasn't addressed, I would have a bad taste in my mouth. But sometimes they would address it in, like, you know, an issue 4 months later. You'd be like, okay, cool. At least they respect us enough to know that someone out there knows something wasn't right.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think that speaks a lot of who you are to do that kind of stuff, too. But as you're commentating, as you're doing announcing, where does the fan leave you and the announcer start? I mean, does that have to happen, or are they just together at all times?
Eventually, they married the fan and the professional announcer, because I always knew that the directive of the company was first, and that always steered the ship. That always, you know, drove the car. Then the fandom came in, which was maybe my air freshener was different or my steering wheel cover was different. So the car, the vehicle, was the commitment to being an announcer. The accoutrements were the fandom, and I just learned how to marry those things.
Let me ask you another question, and you just kind of proved my point with that. I'm not knocking wrestling fans. I think there's fans of all sizes, shapes, IQ levels. I like your word choices. I think they're great. But did anyone ever say, hey, you know, you might be kind of overshooting some of these fans or the kids that are watching? To me, when somebody would say something when I was a kid on commentary that I didn't understand, it would make me want to learn it. That's how I learned out what the pendulum swinging was, when Gorilla used to say it.
There were certain people that said to me, hey, man, you know, instead of saying this word, why don't you just say this word? And my response would be, well, that's not really the right word. You know, my thing was just choosing the right word. But, yeah, I guess. But if I prompted a little kid to say, Mommy, what does juxtapose mean? And the mommy says, well, let's sit down and look it up on our iPad, sweetie. Then maybe, you know, I helped a moment there. So no one ever really said, hey, you're talking over our heads. I just know when people don't know what a word means, instead of looking it up, they'll just get angry at the word, which is ignorant.
I have a question coming in about your weirdest interaction. Maybe it would be backstage with somebody. Maybe it would be with a fan. What was one of your weirdest interactions? You probably saw a lot of different things.
Well, the word weird is subjective with me because I'm a strange dude. I don't know what's weird, and probably the stuff that I think is weird I probably can't say over the air. So,
how about one of the coolest interactions? How about we go with coolest? Like, as a fan.
I gave an interview yesterday with a guy named Alex Obert for something called Obert for Journey of a Frontman. It was a music interview. It had really nothing to do with wrestling. Okay. And I relayed an anecdote when I met Lemmy backstage at WWE and from Motorhead, and it was just awesome because half the wrestlers didn't even know who he was, which was just awful, and B, it was just Lemmy and Triple H kind of hanging out talking because Hunter's a big Motorhead fan, and I kind of like interrupted their conversation, and afterwards I thought about it. I was like, oh man, I just interrupted Triple H talking to Lemmy, but I think Hunter saw how cool it was that I was just like a fanboy. I was like, hey man, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to shake your hand because I think you're awesome. Yeah, thanks, mate. I appreciate that. And just shook his hand and kept walking. I didn't, cavell over him or anything like that. And that was so cool. And the funny thing is, later on in the night, when the rest of the wrestlers started to realize who Lemmy was, they all lined up and went to, kind of kiss his ass. And I kind of feel like Hunter, if anything, would remember that Stryker actually knew who this guy was. So that was kind of cool for me and validating it at the same time, I guess.
That's a little thing that you did, and you just explained it. A little thing that you did that might stick out in somebody's mind. It has nothing to do with wrestling, but it's like, oh, well, Stryker kind of knows what's going on. Because I think that's very important to know what's going on in the real world, to not live in a bubble where you can take things from the outside and bring them in. And I think that would get you, I would think, a lot of respect on commentary from the fans and the like. What I do wonder when we talk about respect is the way you came in. Now, we talked about that earlier. Do you think that there's any kind of backlash, for lack of a better term, from anybody, WWE fans, about how you made your way into the WWE? And did you care, quite frankly?
Well, yeah, of course. Anytime a new kid comes to school and acts out, everyone's going to go, who does he think he is? And then there's going to be those two girls in the corner that go, oh, my God, he is so hot. And then there's going to be those other two girls I want to hang out. And that's how you either, blaze your way into a community, or you're okay just kind of being sheepish and in the corner. The way I came on the scene, I know for a fact it upset people. I know for a fact it ruffled feathers, especially in WWE. I watched it happen. Did I care? A little bit, because there's always going to be that respect in me. I don't want to disrespect you. But at the same time, I'm still that guy that has to it's better to burn out than it is to fade away. Neil Young, I'm that guy that needs to burn out. You know what I mean? Let me throw my hat in here and see if I can do it. If I can't, I'll be more than happy to eat my hat on the way out and be humbled by it. But I got to try. So I cared about being respectful, but I didn't care about, ruffling feathers, if that makes sense.
No, that makes so much sense. And I think that a lot of people that come into any type of job, wrestling or not, anything you go into, they're trying to, they're kind of meek. They're going around, and there's other guys just walk in. I think you can find that happy medium, especially in an industry like wrestling. I think you definitely would do the right thing, because who knows? You could be onto something. You know what I mean? They got to,
right.
If you're good, you're good, and they're going to respect it at the end of the day if you're making them look good. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
All right, quickly, I want to talk about compliments in the wrestling industry, which don't come easy because, everybody is pretty cool with each other, but you're all competing for the same spot. So what I'm wondering is compliments, what is maybe the best one you've received? Does one stand out to you?
Well, I mean, yes, but first and foremost, the caveat is that, if you're going to live on compliments, then you're not going to make much of a living,
No, you can't.
And if you're chasing the pat on the back, then, there's something to be said for that. I do recall several times that several people whom I admire have paid me favor, and not because they had to, but because, it was warranted. And I take it and I hold it close, but only a fool trips on something that's behind him. If I sat around and kept holding on to that and kept using that, I'd be stuck in that moment forever. I take those good things and those bad things, and I just move forward with them, just putting them in my tool belt, because eventually I'm going to have to build a house at some point, and all these experiences are just tools for whatever building is coming.
No, I agree 100%, and you're proving right now, matter of fact, you're using your tools, developing yourself outside of wrestling, but you're doing great. I know I saw it on TMZ. I should have mentioned that. Matt Stryker, I got very excited for you, Matt. Star Trek, can you explain what's going on with this?
Oh, man. When I was a kid, I was an actor. I messed around in movies and stuff, and then I went and started playing semi-pro hockey like a fool. But, so, the acting bug was always there. And a lot of times when you watch WWE, you look at some of these guys, you go, oh, he's such a bad actor. So after I left WWE, I started to throw my hat back into voiceovers, stunt work, acting, and this Star Trek opportunity came to me, and they basically said, listen, why don't you record yourself reading a couple of lines on your phone and, videotape and send it in to us. This is how we do it now. 2014, what do you have to lose? Okay. After about 7 or 8, making sure they looked good videos, I sent it in, and I got the call 2 days later. And turns out it was weird. They didn't even know me from WWE, which was, you want to talk about a compliment, that was really, really validating.
Yeah,
they
definitely.
Didn't see me as Matt Stryker. They just saw me as this guy, Matthew K., who's reading. He's an actor. And I read for them, and then they said, by the way, what else have you done? Well, I also did this. They went back and they watched the WWE stuff and said, even more so now are we interested. But the original interest came in the fact that I guess I just read well for that one particular moment.
I have to correct you, man. I don't think you just read well. I think it goes back to the tool belt, the tools you're talking about. And you probably just kind of got them all out and you're starting to build that house outside of the industry, which is good, man. I'm so happy for you. I think that's going to be huge, man. I heard, I don't know if it was TMZ that said it or somewhere I read that said that they pretty much knew, boom, as soon as they saw or heard you, that you were the guy. Like there was no ifs, ands, or buts, which that's awesome, dude. I am really pumped up for you about that. That's so cool.
Thank you, man. And, again, through everything, the higher up a tree a monkey climbs, the more he shows his ass. No matter how successful or how many things happen, what's near and dear to my heart are like two causes that I've always stuck with, even as a teacher. One was autism awareness, and the other is pit bull rescue, an animal rescue. So anything that I can do to work those two things into a conversation, I think that's the real reason why I'm, wrestling and doing Star Trek and stuff, is just so I can let people know about autism awareness and pit bull rescues.
And look, you worked it in. It just worked. What are you doing with pit bull and autism? Can people contribute? Can they help you out? Can they find you?
Yeah,
Twitter?
Sure.
What's the deal?
Of course. I've always done work with Autism Speaks, and go right, eliminate the middleman. You don't have to go through me. Go right to them. Go check it out. I think the statistics are just staggering, and autism isn't what you think it is. There are plenty of people that walk around every day that you probably don't know that are afflicted with something on the spectrum. So Autism Speaks is a great charity, and there's a million pit bull rescue places or your local animal shelter, wherever you live. Again, this isn't one thing I'm championing. It's just a cause in general. Just be aware of it. Stop by an animal shelter. If you're thinking about getting a pet, adopt it, man. If your girlfriend's giving you a hard time, shut her up with a dog. Get her a puppy at an animal shelter. And just, it's blankets, it's $3 a month, and whatever it is that you have, contribute. Make a difference. Leave a mark.
No, definitely, and I think that's really good. I'm glad we could talk about that because the autism thing I'm with you on. I got to learn more about the pitbull thing, but I think that's cool too. Again, Matt Stryker, thank you for coming on, visiting with the Soscia Network radio show. You're going to be at Right Coast Pro. I believe you're wrestling that night too against, is it Billy Bax?
Yes, it is a rematch. I defeated Billy Bax last time, but now Billy has become a valedictorian once again, so perhaps we will have an educated scientific wrestling contest.
I don't know. He might be dangerous at valedictorian. I think he's been looking for that since the Chick Magnets beat him on his comeback. So he's
you see how you had to work that in. It's the Brian Soscia Show, ladies and gentlemen.
So again, if you want to check out the seminar and the show, it's going to be great. Right Coast Pro Wrestling. It's rightcoastpro.com. It's a bargain for the knowledge you're going to bring to the table and what these kids are going to get out of it. I applaud you for contributing back and helping a younger generation because a lot of guys that go up there don't always come out to do it or they're looking for a quick buck, and you're doing it in a very affordable manner, and I think it's very cool, Matt.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks again for coming on, Matt. I appreciate it. Do you want to plug your Twitter, bro, or anything before you go?
Yeah, the Twitter is @Matt_Stryker_ with an I, Stryker, and the email's on there. Hit me up. Let's talk. And that's cool, man. Very
cool. Well, thanks again for coming on. And I appreciate you visiting with us.
Thank you, buddy. I'll talk to you again, man. Congratulations on all your success, and you're better than Mike Tobin will ever be.
He's going to love that. Oh, yeah.